What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome back to the Raw and Unscripted Show with yours truly, Christopher Rausch, your no excuses coach. And you are at the place where we turn you into a rock star by eliminating your excuses and your tolerations in favor of getting authentic, kick-ass, unstoppable results. Now, if you're signed up for that, if you want to get results in your life, stay tuned for this conversation tonight, whether you're live on the video cast or you're listening to us on audio podcast in something like 27 different countries now. Thank you from the bottom of my kick-ass, unstoppable heart for all of you guys. I didn't realize this, but I kind of did the math the other day. We've been doing the show now for 5 years. We're on episode 258. We've done 258 amazing episodes. I'm proud of that. We're in about 27 different countries. We're in the top 10% of all podcasts. I just watched a documentary on podcasts. There's like 4 or 5 million podcasts out there. We're in the top 10%. So thank you very much for that. Stay tuned for this particular show because we're going to be doing some bonus shows. Recently, I kind of made the decision to not have 2 different podcasts. So I'm going to focus most of my effort here on the Raw and Unscripted brand, and then also do special one-off shows, roundtable shows, talking about depression, talking about men's mental health, talking about whatever it is that you guys want us to do a special roundtable on. We'll get 3 other guests on here and we'll talk about what it is that you guys want to talk about. So we'll be doing that here in the future. If you're not subscribed to the show, go to wherever you get podcasts, type in Christopher Rausch, Rausch. You can get the Raw and Unscripted Show. You can get my other show, the Unfiltered Experience as well. We've done a lot of shows on that. We're really proud of those episodes as well. And if you guys are joining us live, feel free to ask us questions. Ask us questions in the chat. Feel free to engage with us in the chat. This is a conversation between us and my guest. We're sitting at a bar. We're sitting at a coffee shop. We're having a great conversation. And tonight we're having a conversation about what it takes to have an unstoppable attitude, what it takes to overcome the chaos in our mind, what it takes to become resilient, what it takes to find how we can do our best, right? This show, if you're just new to the show, this show is all about discovering your hero's journey, finding your ability to overcome some of your excuses, some of your tolerations, be able to find your authentic core and be able to shine your light from that place. Because when you find out who you truly are and you fall in love with yourself and you treat yourself properly and you give your gift to the world, it's pretty amazing what you attract in your life, the people you attract in your life, the abundance you attract in your life. And it's also pretty amazing that the people that kind of go to the wayside, that perhaps you've outgrown in your life, because people do come in your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And on this show, we teach you guys that you got to let those people go. You have to let those people go. You have to shine your light, and you have to make sure that the 5 people in your life, the 5 people that you're around the most, they are doing the things that you want to do. They are the people that you want to become. They are the mentors that you can go to when you have a situation in your life to ask that question, to not feel like you're alone and isolated. When you have a team of people, it's pretty incredible what it is that you can accomplish. And we're going to be talking about that tonight and so much more. So feel free to give us your questions. We've got Hooked on Humanity in the house already. Miss Nelly, what's up, Nelly? Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you, my sister. And with that, we're going to welcome to the Raw and Unscripted Show, Miss Kelsey Matheson. What's up, Kelsey? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, so glad to be here. So super stoked.
Ching ching. Let's do chair dance.
Whoop, whoop.
Do we walk like an Egyptian? I don't know. Walk like an Egyptian. I met Susanna Hoffs once.
Cool.
I met a bunch of rock stars. Cool. Yeah, she's cute. She's really short. I was like, is the weather different down there? Do you play handball on a curb, something like that? But anyways, let's not talk about this. Let's not talk about the stars that I met, because I met quite a few. We got Scott McCord in the house. What's up, Scott? Thank you for being here, brother. I appreciate you. Miss Kelsey Matheson, thank you very much for being here. You've been on the Unfiltered Experience before, so I'm excited to have this one-on-one conversation with you because you're a brilliant person. You've been through some stuff in your life, and your perspective is real. And that's what I appreciate about you. It's real, it's straightforward, it's no nonsense, and it's stuff that you can apply in your life today. It's not something that's grandiose that it's going to take you 7 months to put into play. The strategies that you're going to be sharing here on the show tonight are things that people can put into place. So what do you want to get across most to people tonight? You're thinking about people sitting at home, thinking about some of the stuff that I talked about here in the intro. What do you want people to walk away from this conversation knowing in their heart of hearts?
I mean, I think for me, my mantra, my personal mantra is dream great dreams and make them come true. And it's totally possible. But what's interesting is our brains are totally against that. Mm-hmm. They're against us every step of the way because our brain is, we're wired to go towards pleasure and away from pain. And usually pleasure is the potato chips, or usually pleasure is like not stepping outside your comfort zone and staying safe and staying cozy. And the pain is the discomfort it takes to shift and change and up level and do all the things. So it's a bit of a paradox because you're like, I have these goals. I want to make these dreams come true. I want to create this life that I want to create. But at the same time, our healthy brain is working against us all the time. So I think what I want everyone to take away is that you absolutely have the power to create the life of your dreams. 100%. Even if you think that sounds cringy, it's true.
Sounds cringy. I love that. You have given me so many opportunities of jumping off questions, so I'm excited for this conversation. But when you think about that, what are some first actionable steps that people can take in that cringeworthy process, right? When you think about people are starting off in a brand new spot, perhaps they're reinventing themselves from a personal standpoint, from a professional standpoint, they've come out of COVID and they've realized that they weren't living the life they wanted to live. What are some of those strategies that we could put into play immediately for people to take home and to work on themselves?
Well, so the first thing, there's many things that come to mind, but something that you can do right now is write down your goals. Like, it sounds
How
really
do you write them
simple.
down? I mean, I've heard a lot of people say they should be phrased a certain way. Do you have a prescription on that?
Well, so not necessarily. I do think that they should be like, so for example, I work with a lot of women entrepreneurs, and you know, one of my clients said that one of her goals was to be financially free. And I said, what does that mean to you?
Right.
She was like, oh. So you want to be specific with your goals because you also want your brain to work towards something, right? I had somebody on my Instagram post last week said, you know what, it was a post about like, when you say you're an entrepreneur, do you feel it, right? And like kind of the imposter syndrome kind of comes in, and somebody posted, I feel like an entrepreneur, but I don't feel like a successful one. And I said, oh, interesting. What does success look like to you? And she was like, oh, actually, I don't know. So
great question.
So I think, right. So with goals, it's like, yes, you want something that might be measurable, or there's a time frame, or if it's a, financial goal, like what is that number? But the one thing that, because we want our brains to work towards something. So I think that's really setting goals for yourself that are measurable, that your brain can track, that there are milestones to get there, I think is important. But here's the thing, it's not about achieving the goal. It's about who you become in the process.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I knew you were going to go there. Thank you. Go deeper on that, because so many people think when I get the result, then I'll be happy. But I have talked to so many famous people, and they're like, no, the grind to get there is where you're truly happy. Getting there is like, okay, now I can do anything I want, but they miss the grind of doing that. So talk about going deeper in that and how they can embrace that, because so many times they don't want the yuck, but the yuck is where the good stuff is.
Well, that's where the gold is, right? Yeah. And so, so there's a few things. So, when you're working towards your goal, you have to step outside of your comfort zone in order to become the person you're going to become, to attract that into your life.
Yes.
Right. So, and here's the other thing. Our brain will also, and I'm sure, Christopher, you talked a lot about this. Our brain will also underestimate the time it will take to reach your goal. Right? Underestimate what you can achieve in a short period of time. Overestimate what you can achieve in a short period of time. Underestimate the time it will take. But it will also underestimate what you can do in a long period of time. So again, right? This is our healthy brain at work. Totally healthy brain, but this is how it can work against us. So we just have to bring acknowledgement to that. So it's like, okay, it's as I'm working towards this goal, let's say it's a financial goal, as I'm working towards making a certain amount of money, or having that amount of money come into my space, into my life in some way, shape, or form. I have to, so I'm working towards reaching those milestones along the way. And from this, like, so if this is the spectrum, this is where I am now, this is the goal, then all of these little stepping stones along the way require some form of growth, require us to get out of our comfort zone, require us to shift and change our mindset, our beliefs, our actions, in order to get there. And that's really scary. And if our brain is underestimating how long it's going to take to get there, then we're going to give up. We're going to make it all about us. We're going to think that something's wrong with us. We can't do it. Everybody else can do it. Look at all the lives on Instagram that look perfect. Look at all of the people celebrating all of their goals. How come they can do it, but I can't? Must see something wrong with me. So we make it about us. The doubt demons come up. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not young enough. You're not old enough. And so then we're like, I just want to go back to the safety of my cave. Right. And I can't continue to keep doing this, but it's in those moments of struggle that you're on the verge of a breakthrough. But that's not, and truthfully, like, It's not a lot of fun.
No, the dark night of the soul is not fun. I've been through it many, many, many times.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm still standing here as a result of it.
Yeah, yeah. And because you keep going into it in different, different phases of your life, you're coming out on the other side better, stronger, wiser, and closer to that goal, whatever you set up for yourself, whatever it is that you're working towards.
Yes. And what I love about what you're talking about here, Kelsey, is taking that imperfect action. Taking that imperfect action every single day, compounded daily, will yield that net result of saying, wow, like you said, what can I always tell people in terms of working with me? For the most part, I say you got to give yourself 3 years. And most people work with me for a year, 6 months to a year. That's how my contracts work, is 6 months.
Yeah.
The first 6 months are usually undoing the stuff that had been done in their life before and kind of getting in the balance and the foundation. Then the second 6 months are usually like the like the icing on the cake. And then they usually don't need to work with me anymore. Usually they do some sort of maintenance contract or something like that. But in there, I talk about taking that imperfect action and talk about exactly what you're talking about, as well as getting out of your comfort zone. Because when we look back on our life, and I invite everybody listening and viewing us tonight to think about this, you have survived 100% of all the different experiences that you've been through, but yet we don't give ourselves credit for that. We beat ourselves up for the things that we didn't do right. And we sit there and we go back to that, and we sit there and we don't take that imperfect action every single day. I find that somebody asked me a long time ago, they say, why are you still here? Given everything that you've been through in your life, Chris, all the ups and downs, the hero's journeys, the dark nights of the soul, how are you still here? And I said, simply, I took imperfect action, and I never gave myself any excuses. If I didn't know how to do it, I figured out how to do it. If I didn't have enough time, I figured out how to make time. I figured out what my priority was, not my priorities. I figured out what my priority was. And you said the word a couple of times, and I want to kind of dive into this. But before I go into that, I want you to share, I'd like for you to share maybe a lowest point for you, because you're obviously well spoken. You've been through a lot of experiences. You're saying brilliant stuff tonight, but I know that Kelsey has been through some things in her life. So talk to us about one of those low moments, and perhaps what you learned from that moment and how you got yourself out of that moment. Because I believe that hero's journey, for people to say, okay, wow, she's so bright, she's so pretty, she's so smart and everything else. But Kelsey's had some stories as well. So I invite you to share one of those.
So many.
Yeah. I remember some of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the one that comes to mind right now is we at first, my husband, who's watching right now, my husband and I and our daughter moved to, moved to, there he is. Hey, so we moved to New York from Canada, and it was a shock in many, many ways. But I think, kind of going back to, you underestimate the time it's going to take. And so we're both self-employed, essentially. My husband's an actor and I'm an entrepreneur. And we moved, and we had a nest egg and, all of that. And things did not move the way that we thought that they were going to move. And financially, I don't remember a time where we've been as strapped and stressed. Yeah. And to the point, and I think I might have told you this story before, but to the point where we had taken our daughter to Coney Island just to walk along the boardwalk. And I remember seeing a woman kind of picking in a garbage. And I remember looking at her, and she found kind of a half-eaten hot dog or something. And she grabbed the hot dog and found a plastic cup with a little bit of soda or something in it. And she took it. And I remember my brain going, if we're ever destitute, I know where to come for food. And then I was like,
that's
what?
Yeah.
Like, did that just happen in my brain? Like,
you're not alone. I've had those thoughts. Yeah.
Right?
I see bushes, and I'm like, if I were homeless, I could sleep in that bush.
That's a good spot to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but I've never had to worry about that. I've never had that thought in my, I know you've had a very different experience, but for me, that was very new to even think. And then it shocked me that that's what that's what the thought that surfaced was when I was watching this woman. I was like, if we're ever getting to the point, I can, and I know that in reality that wouldn't happen. We have friends, we have family. Like, I know we would be taken care of, but it was just where my mind went. So I realized that I was in a real scarcity mindset. I was in a panic, desperate space. And it was around the time I was having panic attacks, 3 a.m, and I was, it was not fun. But here's the thing, and this I think is really important. I practice yoga. I love fitness. I'm into meditation. And I thought, okay, because my emotions were, were so heightened and my stress levels were so heightened, I was like, okay, I need to meditate. I need to meditate like for an hour a day. But here's what's interesting is there's nothing wrong with meditating, but I was doing it to run away from what I was feeling.
Yeah.
Right. So it was the same as drinking.
How did you catch that you were doing that? Because most people don't catch that.
No. And it took a coach for me to catch that. And it's one of the reasons why I became a coach.
Nice.
Right. And so I didn't catch it because I thought I'm doing something good, but it's the same as drinking a bottle of wine. It's the same as eating a bag of chips. It's the same as going to, to jump into work, right. Or go shopping, whatever it is that you try to numb and stifle your emotions. You can also do that through things that you think are healthy. Yeah. And trying to meditate for an hour, sure, it's better than having, 2 bottles of wine. But the fact that I was doing it to try to stifle how I was feeling meant that that's the reason I was having a panic attack, is because I was trying to shove the emotions down and they just kept trying to bubble up. So what I learned was I have to sit in the emotion. I have to sit in the feeling. I have to allow them to surface. And again, that's terrifying for our brain, because we think when we're feeling that level of panic, we think we're going to get eaten by the tiger.
Right.
And I wasn't going to die, but my brain didn't know that. And so I needed the help of a coach to be like, do you recognize that that's what you're using? You're using meditation as a crutch, like you would anything else. And I was like, oh,
that's a good coach right there. That's a great coach. Because most coaches would be like, oh, good, she's meditating. That's okay. I wonder what else.
Yeah.
That's great.
So it was powerful. And then I was like, okay, I gotta sit in my shit.
Sit in my shit. I'm gonna dovetail off that in just a second. Just for the people who are listening, we've got a bunch of people that are here with us on the live video cast. We got her husband Scott McCord in the house. He says she is real. Yes, I would hope she is real. I'm talking to her right now. We got Jacqueline Rose in the house, my Irish sister from another mister. She says hello everyone. Jacqueline says here as well. She goes, success to me is making it through the day. I feel you. And actually, I have a question for you that on that. Kelsey, in just a second. Jacqueline says here as well, she goes, all that I've been through in my life, I should bench press a Buick. I'm one tough Irish woman. Hell yeah, sister, you are. You totally are. And she says here, when I had panic attacks, I thought I was going crazy. Haven't had panic attacks in years. Well, what did you do, Jacqueline, to get rid of those panic attacks? Nellie says here, she goes, very good point. We should always be aware what our intentions are in anything we do. Yes, Nellie, that's why when I wake up in the morning, part of my morning ritual is the fact that I set the intention for the day. And the intention is that I'm going to be present and playful with my son. The intention is going to be that I'm going to use my words and my actions to make this world a better place, and so on. When we do that, it's pretty incredible what it is we can attract in our life, because I don't set the intention to tolerate bullshit. I don't set the intention to watch the news and be depressed and frustrated about the shit that I can have no control over. Yeah, Julie Joy in the house. What's up, Joy? She says, hello, dear souls. What's up? Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. Hope you're doing better. Hope you're feeling better. Got my brother from another mother, Oren Checkmate Hudson, is the house. You guys got to check out Oren Checkmate Hudson. He was here on the Raw and Unscripted show probably about a year or so ago. Oren, thank you so much for being here, brother. I appreciate you. That's and we're having an amazing conversation. So if you guys are at all interested, go back and check out the beginning part of this. But you had mentioned before, Kelsey, imposter syndrome. And funny enough, when I was thinking about talking to you tonight, I put that down here as one of my idea generators. Talk to us about that, because so many people I find, and it's surprising how many people in the entrepreneur space do feel like that imposter when they have all the supporting facts that say, no, you've deserved and you've earned the right to be that expert. What can people do to transfer their thought process, that negative self-talk, right? I was telling my coaching program people this the other day, like the negative person in my mind, I named him Stan. And this is something I learned a long time ago. So when Stan tells me he doesn't feel like going to the gym, fuck off, Stan. I really don't care what you want, Stan. I want to be in great shape, Stan. I want to live a long time. So I name my inner voice. And so I'll have conversations with Stan. I don't care if you don't want to go do this, Stan. We're going to do the laundry. We're going to pay the bills, and then we're going to have fun, Stan. I don't care. And so I find that I make it funny. And so I assigned that to my coaching clients, and they came back and they were hilarious with their names, Helga, and all these different things. So what do you say to people who are feeling that imposter syndrome? They got that negative self-talk, constantly just griping at them. How do we overcome that?
Yeah. Well, I call them doubt demons. Your doubt demons, you're yakking in your ear. I actually do an exercise where we draw our doubt demons.
Ooh, I like that.
And we write down all the things they say, how they try to sabotage, and a few other things, around the doubt demon, and then we name them. Yeah. So
Good.
mine, we name them. And so, so many of my clients have these really cool and creative names for them, but, some of them look like monsters or, evil, spirits or something. And then one of my clients, she was like, I don't know why, it's just a pink blob. I'm like, go with it. That's okay. That's fine. But the idea is that this is the doubt demon. We actually do a visualization and meditation to kind of just focus on who your doubt demon, or sometimes demons, because sometimes they can be a pack.
Oh yeah.
Who they are, who's your doubt demon, name it, and get really familiar with when it shows up, what's happening in your life, what are the common things that it says to you, because then you can recognize it. And then we do an exercise where we can shrink it, we can, stop it from talking, we can love it. If it's just, it's in a wound, and it's just, it's like a little version, little girl or little boy version of us, in this form of a doubt demon where it just needs love and just to know that everything is going to be okay. Right. We can put our arm around it and it can come with us. It's okay to be scared, but we're doing it anyway, or it's like time for you to go to bed. I'm going to take over. You don't need to be in control. So we kind of go through this exercise of but when you get to know it, it takes away its power. You take control back, right? And it's about knowing that you do have control and knowing that you can separate yourself from that. So it is fun. It's so fun to draw them. And that's interesting because I'll get people to draw it, and then I'll come back to that and I'll say, who hesitated to draw because you think that you're bad at drawing? And the people who raise their hands, I'm like, that was your doubt demon right there. It shows up in really crazy ways, but that's your doubt demon. You're bad at this. You can't draw. You're not an artist. Like, that's your doubt demon yakking in your ear. So, and then for some people who find it's really loud, I'm like, post it somewhere that you can see it, because then you'll recognize when I say you're not good enough, no one cares about what you want, you're too old to do this, or whatever the doubt demon says to you, like, who do you think you are? You don't deserve this. Then you can go, oh, that's the thing that, my doubt demon says to me all the time. Oh, great. I have control over this. I have power over this. And then you have certain tools, and everyone's different in terms of what, for some people, the idea of shrinking it works. For some people, it doesn't really work, but there's all these different ways that you can take your power back. So that's a really fun way of dealing with it. And then the other thing is just recognizing too, that your brain is always going to look for evidence that it's not working. Right? If you're working towards a goal, we were talking about goals. You're going to I'm going to set a goal for myself. This is what I want my life to look like. This is what I want my finances to look like. This is what I want my body to look like. This is what I want my relationships to look like. Whatever that is, you set a goal for yourself. You're working towards it. But then your brain's going to look for evidence that it's not working. And you mentioned this before, Christopher, your brain doesn't look at all the achievements that you've made, all of the milestones that you have, set out for yourself. If I ask somebody, tell me all of the negative things of why it's not working, oh my gosh, you could talk about it for days, go on and on and on for hours. But if I say, I want you to write down all of the achievements that you've ever had in your life, they'll write down maybe 2, 3, maybe 5. And then they're like, huh. Hold on. So I do another exercise, and you can do this easily with yourself. You can set a timer for 5 minutes, and you have to just keep writing all the positive things that have happened in your life, all of the achievements, everything you've done. And even when you're stuck, just keep writing. It's like, I got my driver's license. I, made it 10,000 steps yesterday. Whatever it is, I had a shower, for new moms, you'll know what that's like. It's whatever you can think about, just coming up with achievements, and then until the timer stops. And love it. It's a challenge, but it's so good for your brain to look at how everything actually is working, why you're not an imposter, why you're freaking brilliant. and deserving and unstoppable and amazing, and you can have the life that you want,
Yes.
So it's a really cool exercise. It's a challenge, but it's fun.
Yes, I have the same thing. And when I do the tolerations exercise with my clients, I tell them to list what they're tolerating from themselves, from inanimate objects, and from other people. And inevitably, like 99% of the people come back and they've got a couple of tolerations in each one of their boxes. And I'm like, okay, talk to me about that. And I already know, based on the conversations I've had with them, how much stuff they're really tolerating. And they'll come back and be like, oh yeah, this was kind of hard. And they give me like 3 things out of each one. I'm like, yeah, for the next week, I want you to walk around with a piece of paper in your hand. And I want you to be honest with yourself. The fact that you tolerate the dishwasher kind of sticks. You tolerate the fact that you have to make lunches for everybody when the boys are old enough to make, that you tolerate the fact that clothes are on the floor, and then invariably 98% of the people, generally one person will sit there and try to hold their ground with it. Everybody else comes back and goes, Jesus Christ, Chris, I did not realize how much shit I was tolerating. I was just talking with my clients last night. She thought the inanimate objects one at first was stupid. She's like, when you first said it, I was like, what? And then she started realizing the drawer sticks, the car door, the carpet is curled and I trip on it, and the cat food container. And she's like listing them all off. She goes, each one of them took me less than a half an hour to fix, but I've tolerated them for years. And I told her my light switch story, that I walked into my bathroom every day for years and had to jiggle my switch. And the light would come on. Yeah, the light would come on. Sometimes it would stay on. I'd be taking a shower. Sometimes it would go dark. The light switch. And then one day I walked in. I was pissed off. This was years and years ago. And I said, I'm going to Home Depot right this second. I'm buying a light switch and I'm going to change it. I mean, there's more to the story. I went to Home Depot. I spent 49 cents on a light switch. It took me 30 minutes, including the internet stuff. And I will tell you this, Kelsey, and I told this to my coaching group the other night. I said, every day, every time when I walked into that bathroom, no longer did I go, oh God, is the light switch going to work? I got excited for flipping the light switch. So just because I took care of that toleration, not only did I fix the toleration, but now I was excited. And she said the same thing. She goes, I get excited to open up the junk drawer. Right.
Yeah.
So we have that opportunity. You had said,
can I ask you a question about that?
100%.
Before you got, so what was the thought that when you walk into the bathroom and you knew that the light switch was going to be, iffy, cause you some issues and jiggle and all that. What was your thought to just kind of tolerate it versus when you decided I'm not tolerating this anymore and you went to Home Depot? Like, what were the two? Because our thoughts create our results, right? So there was a thought in your mind that continued to allow yourself to tolerate it. Yeah. And then there was a thought you had that then directed your actions to do something about it. Can you share a little bit about that?
100%. Yeah. And that's a great question, actually, because I did have the tolerations for myself and for other people, but I had not included inanimate objects. And so during that time, I was having my coaching clients do that. And then I started realizing for myself, as I was noticing things, I'm like, why is this frustrating? I'm like, oh, I've got all these little itty bitty tiny little frustrations. I'm wondering that if I personally start to take care of those little tiny frustrations, what I'll feel like. So I've always been that kind of guinea pig for myself. Like, okay, I'm experiencing this thing. And okay, what would it feel like if I didn't walk into this bathroom and be frustrated? What is it really going to take? Because I know in my mind, I tend to make it like, okay, I'm not going to go to Home Depot unless I can buy 7 other things, because Home Depot is a pain in the ass to get to. It takes me 30 minutes to get there. I'm going to make sure that I save up all my things I need to do. And so I had it all preconceived in my mind of how it needed to work. But when I broke that down and said, no, it does not need to work that way, Chris, you can actually go there and you could buy a 49-cent switch and come back and change it, feel a sense of accomplishment, feel a sense of pride, and then that sense of excitement to know that you're not going to tolerate those things anymore. So now when you have things come up in your life, it's like, let's address it right now. There's a crack in the windshield. I'm going to have to call it eventually. So now we start taking pride in our things. We start taking pride in ourselves, and we stop allowing that stuff to build up in ourselves, because like you said before, that all builds up that pressure. And I'd like for you to talk about this, because that's super important. We push things down, and I find that we can either repress them, suppress them, or express them. What advice do you have for people dealing with that they, I can handle it, I can handle it, I can handle it. Then all of a sudden they get to that blowing point, and everybody can make changes when they've reached the bottom. Everybody makes changes. They quit drugs, they quit drinking, they quit relationships, they quit jobs. When we hit that bottom, what can we do to proactively get them to make those changes without having to hit the bottom?
Yeah, well, I mean, you made that change by changing the narrative. Just even using the light switch, example, like you changed the narrative of meaning all of the excuses, the story you had created of why it doesn't make sense to go to Home Depot, like all of those things. Like you had a story that nobody else created but you.
Yeah.
Right. And so we also will create the story of like, I'm okay. I can take care of it. I've got it. Like, this actually isn't a problem. Where it's, and then you're just pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down. And also, I won't get into it too much, but then there's also, like, just in terms of our culture, our society, how we've been raised about feeling emotion. We're not taught how to properly feel and process our emotions.
Oh, amen.
Right? Especially men, but also women. And so it's like, yeah, suck it up, you know, suck it up, buttercup.
Boys don't cry. I did a whole show on the negative statements that we learned in our childhood before 5 years old. It was a whole like 20 something things, like, oh yeah, you know, all those different things.
Money doesn't grow on trees, suck it up, all of the things. Yeah.
Stop being selfish, get your head out of the clouds.
Yeah.
So many.
Oh, so good. Oh, so good. Yeah. So in terms of like emotions when they surface, again, our default is going to be to suppress them because sitting in discomfort is uncomfortable, right? And the more we do it and the more we catch ourselves, the more our brain will recognize again that you won't die.
Yeah.
But and I said earlier, it's like, you have to sit in your shit. You have to feel all of the feelings. And I tell my clients they are surfacing for a reason, and they are surfacing because they are ready to heal. They wouldn't be surfacing otherwise. You wouldn't be feeling those emotions if they weren't ready to heal. Because trust me, that never ends. There's more shit in there that's going to surface as you continue to live your life, right? But whatever is surfacing for you in that moment is ready to heal. So that allows you to look at it from a different perspective, because then there's optimism there. There's kind of like, okay, like, I can heal this. Again, you take your power back, you take your control back, but you have to feel it, like, and then get curious, you know, get really curious. What am I making this mean? What is coming up for me? What does this remind me of? Right. And that's some work I do with my clients. You and I talked about this before with Scott. It's like I do a process, some energy work called somato-respiratory integration. So it's like energy and breath. And it's literally about like, what does this emotion remind you of? Even if it feels totally random and you're like, it reminds me of when I was 5 playing with my doll in the backyard on the swing. I don't know why.
So true.
It's like, great. You don't need to know why. Right. But there's something about that's surfacing and it has been suppressed that is ready to be healed and processed. So it's also about recognizing when those emotions are coming up, that they're there. They're a gift. It's a gift.
It truly is. It really is. And I've found, as we were talking about before, I can't remember if we said it on air, before air, but I've gone 5 months without drinking.
Oh, yeah.
And I realized in that moment, thank you. And I realized in that moment that, you know, I've drank for different reasons over my lifetime. And that's why I've periodically stopped, just to make sure I never had a problem with it. But in this time of stopping, normally I stop with an end date. And this time I said, you know, I'm going to stop without having an end date, because I know I can do it for 3 months. I know I can do it for 75 days. But in my brain, what would it be like if I didn't have the end date? So I can focus on, okay, I can make it for these 3 months. What would it feel like if I didn't have the end date? What would happen to my thoughts and my feelings? Would I find and realize that I may have been running away from some things and not had known about it? So one of the things, like you said, when you don't have your short-term gratification to run to anymore, you have to feel the feelings. And I wrote that on my dry erase board. I said, one of the major observations I've seen, because I'm writing down all these observations that I'm sharing with people, is that you have to face the things that are uncomfortable in your life. You have to face the fact that you may have relationship issues. You may have to face the fact that you have excuses. You may have to face the fact that you're tolerating a lot of stuff. But in that, like you said, it's not going anywhere. And it's only going to mount and build until one day you have that breaking point. And so I think that's very important for people to realize, is that we can visualize and we can sit there and say, we can ask ourselves this question: when will I have had enough? Like sitting here right now, we all know we're tolerating stuff. When will I have had enough? I'm dealing with this person. Where do I see myself losing my shit? Where do I see myself leaving this person and going to a homeless shelter? Because I've got a story about somebody who did that. She got up at 2:00 in the morning, left a very wealthy person and a very high influential life, and took her 7-month-old baby and went to a battered women's homeless shelter that she used to donate money to, embarrassed, all these different things, rebuilt her life from there, and created the Universal Women's Network in Canada. And her name is Monica Kretschmer. So she took like this horrible, horrible situation and made this amazing organization to help women fight those things. So we have the power to do those things. When you think about
it's within us.
Yeah. When you think about when you're working with your clients, when I ask that question, like, when will you've had enough? What are questions that you ask yourself or you ask your clients to really have that big shift? Because I personally love questions. I mean, people sit there and, ask me about coaching. I'm like, really, it's me asking you a bunch of questions and leading you to the realization that you have the power to change what it is that you're doing. I said, it's me not telling you to do stuff. It's me not yelling at you. It's me asking, so tell me more about that. Where is the cause from that? Where could you sit there and rewrite that belief about yourself based on something that your father said? Was your father an expert in that area? No. Okay. Can you perhaps have some compassion? Let's rewrite that script. And perhaps if you're taking it personally, let's stop that. What would that feel like? Oh my God, if I didn't feel like that anymore, Chris, I wouldn't feel like an imposter, but I'd have that empowerment. So what do you say to that, to people who are struggling with it?
Yeah. So, I mean, so part of it is like going into the struggle and like, what are you making that mean about you?
Right.
Like, right. So like, what are you making, like whatever your narrative is, whatever your story is, whatever you've created for yourself, or the excuses or whatever that is, because we all have our own stories. We all have our own, excuses that we cling on to, and we cling on to them, not because, we're not good enough or smart enough or talented enough or skilled enough. We hold on to them because it makes us feel safe.
Serves us.
Yeah, it serves us 100%, but we always get to a point where it's no longer serving us, and we have to let go of it. And that's really scary, and then move towards something new. So part of it is just like really understanding like what the story is and how it used to serve them, but how it no longer is serving them, and what it is that they want and why. Because that's the other thing, is it's like, we can set goals for ourselves. We can decide that we're going to, have new relationships, lose 100 pounds, stop drinking, whatever that is. But why? Right. And so for some people who are really struggling with the narrative, number one, what are you making it mean about you that, maybe what is the story you're clinging to? What are you making it mean about you? And then what is it that you want and why? I think the why is so crucial, because I think that we, like that woman who I was saying was like, I don't even know what success looks like to me. It's like, okay, great. You'll never feel successful then.
Exactly. Like, what does a perfect day look like?
Yeah. Right. So she's like, oh, I feel like I don't feel successful. She's like, I feel like an entrepreneur. I don't feel successful. I'm like, okay, well, what does success look like? She's like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, well, then you'll never feel successful.
Exactly.
Right. What does it look like to you? And now I'm going to ask you why. So that will, that helps, but it's a process. Like, that's the other thing too, is it's like, there is no quick fix. There is no magic pill. It's like dealing with the emotion, processing it. Where does that live in your body? What are you making that mean about you? What does it remind you of from the past? Like, really unpacking and getting curious about that. What is it that you want? Why, and why do you want it? So, I mean, again, I don't know if that totally answers your question, but it's a process, right? It's a process that we have to go through. And a lot of us don't have the patience for it, because we want when we want it. And if there was a magic pill, or if there was a quick fix, then we would all be, incredibly wealthy. We would all have our perfect health and perfect bodies. And we would, and that's why, also those industries are, the quick fix industries are multi-billion-dollar industries, because they talk to that part of our brain, and we all have it. It's all in there, right? That's like, you want this and you want it fast. You want it easy. Yes. Please give it to me. And of course, it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
It can't work quickly. Not necessarily that, like, I don't want to say that it's this long process. It depends. Everyone's different. And it really, depends on how much growth you're willing to experience, because again, it's challenging. But you do, you got to go through the phases of it in order to get where you want to go.
You do. You really do. You're familiar with Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey, right?
Yeah.
So for people listening, if you guys haven't seen or heard about it, go Google it. It's Joseph Campbell story, Finding Joe. It's on YouTube. It's like an hour and 23 minutes. An amazing depiction of what we all experience and why we watch those movies, and we see The Wizard of Oz, and we see Star Wars, and the heroine goes through all these ups and downs, and they come back, and what do they want to do? They want to share that story of what they went through. They want to teach other people how to go through that. And that's so important, because Steve Harvey, dollar for dollar, I watched this video my coach gave to me one time. We were talking about scarcity. We were talking about, comparing ourselves to other people. And she said, I want you to watch this video by Steve Harvey. So I go to YouTube, type in jump, and it's him in a parking garage. I could send anybody the link if they want it. And it's about 1 minute and 23 seconds. And he's talking about the fact that, You're comparing yourself to everybody else. You said before, like
Right.
we're doing the Instagram post. I know so many
Yeah.
people who are miserable, but you look on their Instagram and they look like they're
Oh,
having
yeah.
the time of I know they're miserable. They've come to me for coaching and I'm like, oh, and these are people in the personal development space that are sitting there saying
Right.
how expensive how much revenue they're making. All this, that doesn't even matter. But ultimately, you know, shit, I just lost my train of thought. That doesn't matter.
Harvey, the video, the YouTube video.
YouTube video. So jump. So thank you. So he's
Jump.
talking about the fact that you see those people, they're flying to the south of France and they're doing this and they're doing that. They jumped, but their parachute didn't open right away. Their back got scraped up. They free fall for a while. They were scared, but their parachute did open. But so many of us are sitting there going, man, I want my parachute to open. I want my parachute to open, but we haven't jumped. And that's what she did for me. Like I left my corporate job in November of 2019 and I made 6 figures. I had it all figured out. I was comfortably miserable. But she's like, if you want to really embrace this, Chris, and have your entrepreneurial life, I've been coaching and speaking for 20 years on the side. I was very successful in corporate, made lots of money, was my wheelhouse. I could do it in my sleep, but I was comfortably miserable. And she had me watch that video and I was like, ooh, I got to jump. I got to jump. But so many times we don't jump because we have an excuse. And now I'm the no excuses coach. So I want to hear this from you because you're a coach. What do you say when people come up with their excuses? They come up with their excuse like, you know, I'm doing my best. I love that excuse. What do you say when somebody says, Kelsey, I'm doing the best that I can. I have no more in me.
Yeah. Well, then I say, you know, what if the opposite were true? What if you did have more in you?
Yeah.
What does that look like? Right? It's just like, what if the opposite were true? It's one of my favorite questions to ask is, what if the opposite were true?
I love that.
It's like, well, I can't do that. You know, I'm not, you know, I'm not educated enough. I don't have this, you know, talent or skill, or I don't, you know, I'm not at this stage of my life or whatever the excuse is, you know, you name it.
Right.
Like, what if the opposite were true? What if you could? What if it all was working out? What if you are talented enough? What if you are smart enough? What if you know, what if the opposite were true? And then it takes a little bit of it. It's kind of like the Etch-a-Sketch. It's like their brain's like, wait, what? So, you know, that's a great question to ask yourself too, is when you're catching yourself holding on to your old stories, because you know what they are, you know what your excuses are, you know what your excuses are. 100% you know what your excuses are. If I was to ask you right now, write down your top 3 excuses that your go-to excuses, you could absolutely write them down. And then ask yourself, what if the opposite were true? What would that look like? Allow your brain to get curious. Allow your brain to be playful, right? Get creative. But you can't do that when you're stuck in the tunnel vision of your excuses. You have to like open up, you know, our perspective in order, like I always say, the person with the most perspectives has the most wisdom. They have the most power, right? But you can't, but yeah, you have to ask the right questions in order for your brain to go, oh, what if the opposite were true? Right? Yeah. It's interesting that you talk about jump, because I tell a story of like when we're going through this process, and I think I might have told you and Scott this before too, is it's like, I talk about the little girl who's going to jump into a pool for the very first time. And so she's standing at the edge of the pool and she's looking in, and like, there's one part of her brain that is like, oh my God, don't do it. It's like, this is the worst idea in the whole, like, look, the sun is shining on us. We're dry, we're warm, we can breathe the air. We're totally safe up here. Like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And there's another part of her brain going, this is going to be the best thing ever. Oh my God, you got to jump in. It's going to feel so good. We're going to be able to be with the big kids in the pool. And it's going to feel so refreshing. Like, do it, do it, do it. And the other part of the brain is like, this is the awful idea. And there's a tug of war going on. Now, the bigger the risk is perceived, the more tumultuous that tug of war is going to be. Because the other thing too is like, you know, in terms of our instincts, as soon as her feet leave the platform and yeah, she jumps, there's a death that occurs because she will never be the girl who never jumped into the pool ever again. And when she jumps, it's not going to be like a triple axel flip boom into the perfect dive pool. It's going to be sloppy. And she's probably going to be doggy paddling, and she's probably going to be gasping for air a little bit. And she's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then she's going to have to hold on to the side. And then she's going to get up, and then she's going to do it again. And then that might happen a little quicker, and it might be a little bit better. But like, she's not diving off a 12-foot diving board the first time doing a triple axel into the pool beautifully. It's a process. So anytime we're learning something new, anytime we're stepping outside our comfort zone, anytime we're like pushing ourselves in that way, and reaching our edge, it's like we're jumping into the pool. And that first time you jump, there is a death that occurs, and every cell in our body is programmed to survive, and that's why we have to recognize the fight with our healthy brains, because they're working against us all the time. But when we have awareness, again, we can take our power back. So I love that. I'm going to go look for that video.
I posted it on
cool.
The comments. Yeah, right there. Because there's a couple of different ones. He does an extended version one, which actually I've never even watched because I just didn't want to taint it. But this video, I've watched thousands of hours of videos. This video was the one that really got me to go, wow, I get it now. I get it. I have to take those actions. I summarize it this way. At the AAA, to keep it simple for people, you have to have awareness, you have to have acceptance, you have to have action. You have to have awareness that the situation is going on. You have to accept it for what it is, whether it's your fault, whether it's somebody else's fault. You can't sit there and blame everybody. You can't wish it away. You can't pray it away. You can't do everything away. So awareness, acceptance, and then the third thing, the action. But so many times we just sit there in that state of victimhood because it's safe and it's predictable. Oh my God, Kelsey, I'm so unsuccessful because I had a horrible childhood. I was homeless, Kelsey. I was abused. I was beaten. This is why I'm not successful, and I don't know how to rewire it. I don't, that's basically saying I don't want to rewire it. This is serving me because everybody feels sorry for me. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the jury, when you get out of that victim space, when you sit there and you stand up and you sit there and say, you know what? I'm tired of giving my power away. When I blame somebody else, I'm giving my power away. I'm tired of taking it personal. I'm giving my power away. You guys need to read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And in that book about his discovery going through the Auschwitz camp, in Germany, Auschwitz, Germany, right? Yeah. Yep. I'm also just had a brain fart. I went to I went to a main Auschwitz exhibit this year that was traveling. It was down at the Ronald Reagan Museum here in Southern California. But anyways, thank you for that. I just realized how much time we've been going on, 47 minutes. I'm going to have you back on the show, but such a riveting conversation. Everybody's been like just loving on this. Lynn Serrano came in the house, said, shared. She goes, hello, beautiful friends. We got Debbie Bettendorf. Check out Debbie's show. Hey. She's got an amazing show. Connect with her. Debbie says here, hello to Kelsey and shared. Nellie says here as well. She goes, I really like visualization and recognition method. It really works. That has helped me a lot in my life with a few issues. 100%. Nellie, that thing, because our brain doesn't know the difference between real reality and perceived reality, because we have a bad dream. We wake up and we feel like we went through that bad dream, but nothing physically happened. It was just our brain playing a movie. The same thing happened positively in our life, because when I wake up in the morning, I actually visualize a couple of things in my life, the success that I want to see. I visualize it. I feel it. I see it. I touch it. I can see the audience engaging with me. I can feel, I can smell the music or hear the music, and I can smell everything else. Where can people get a hold of you and keep this conversation going with you, Miss Kelsey?
Yeah, well, my website is easy to find me at kelseymatheson.com.
Spell that for people who are listening on the podcast all over the world. Yeah,
it's KelseyMatheson.com, kelseymatheson.com. You can find me there. You can also find me on Instagram at Kelsey Matheson, KelseyMatheson, the Kelsey Matheson on Instagram.
And why should people contact you? What do you help people do? What is your specialty? What is your area of expertise?
So my specialty is helping women make more money doing what they love and getting out of their own way. So that's my specialty. But I work with men and women as a life coach. My specialty is in business. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. I've built multi-million-dollar businesses. I've built total flops and everything in between. So I love, especially with women, I love supporting women and creating the life that they want to create for themselves and really making their dreams a reality, whether they're entrepreneurs or not. So that's kind of my jam.
Your jammy jam. Kelsey, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I know that the viewers and the listeners are going to get total satisfaction and amazing results from implementing some of the strategy we talked about here tonight. I love what Oren says here. Jump. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to jump. Yeah.
Do
jump
it
for my love. Or you can do Van Halen jump.
Yeah. Jump.
What else? Pointer Sisters. Yeah. Pointer Sisters jump for my love. Yeah. So so many different songs and music.
So many.
I'm going to place you backstage. Don't go anywhere because I still want to have a moment with you, but I'm going to end out the show here for a second. But thank you, my dear.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. 50 minutes, tons of strategies between myself and Kelsey. The biggest message I want you to get through this conversation that we talked here about tonight is your language, your self-talk. 2 words I want you to eliminate from your vocabulary: always and never. We're talking about the self-talk. We're talking about being unstoppable. We're talking about the excuses that we use in our mind, that negative self-talk. I always screw up. I always whatever. Or I never can get the guy. I never can get it right. I'm always doing this. I can never do this. I can always do. Can you understand that after years and decades of that programming in your mind, can you understand how you might have limiting beliefs? Think about it for a second. I always screw it up. I can never get it right. Guess what? Your brain goes, we're doing something new. Let's see if we screw it up, because I always screw it up, right? There's a thing called the RAS system in your brain. It's called the reticular activation system. If I tell you wherever you're at, drive, don't do it while you're driving, but in your house, in your home, wherever you're at, look around and tell me everything that's blue. Take a moment and just go, that's blue, 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 that's blue. And I just actually pointed out to everything that's blue in my office. Chris, what's blue? I got it. I'm under control. I got that for you. You told me to look for what's blue. I looked for what's blue. I'm going to answer this question. I'm going to nail it. But Chris says, tell me what's orange. Yeah, Chris, I didn't see orange because I wasn't looking for orange. I was looking for blue. The same thing happens in your life. If you're looking for the problems, if you're looking for the mistakes, if you're looking for the assholes, if you're looking for a reason to be pissed off, you will find it. You will find it. If you're looking for a reason to be pissed off, mad, upset, victim, whatever it is, you're going to find it and you're going to pound your chest. There I go again. See, I knew I was going to have a bad day. All these things happen. I'm sure there's more stuff that's going to happen. My life is shitty. My life is terrible. I suck. But you know what? I'd really love to have an awesome relationship and lots of money and be successful in my job and have an awesome body. A little bit of a dichotomy there, a little bit of a problem, because what you're saying and what you're doing don't match. And I love what Kelsey said. The reason why she is here today, the reason why she was able to see something outside of her purview, was that she had somebody who was a specialist in her life. She had a coach, right? You guys know I'm a coach. She's a coach. I'm telling you this. I would not be sitting here doing this podcast right now had I not had a coach. Not have a coach. My great Sally Anderson from New Zealand. Amazing. Told me to watch that video jump. Amazing. She said, Christopher, when the fuck are you going to get out of the scarcity mindset? When the fuck are you going to really know your value? Quit undercharging. Know your value. Don't be an imposter. I had this person. I paid them money, lots of money. And they sat there and drilled through me and they said, how about if you start doing these things instead of those things? Then you might have those things instead of those things, right? Change what you're doing, change the inputs, change the actions. Every single day, wake up and set the intention for what you're going to do. Wake up every single day and find gratitude in the small things. Wake up every single day and tell yourself, I'm going to enjoy the moments for the day because I don't know if I'm going to fucking live tomorrow. So I don't want to regret if I'm dying that I wasted the last 2 weeks of my life. I don't want to regret and die and think that I didn't tell the people that I love them. I want to regret and die and miss the music in my life. So many of you guys are fucking complaining and waiting for someday. There is no someday. There is no someday. My friend just died of brain cancer. My other friend just lost her daughter. People die every single day. People poof, gone, never to come back. That's going to be all of us one day. That's going to be every single one of us. It doesn't matter how old we are. It doesn't matter our health. It doesn't matter anything. We have zero control over that. Poof. When our time is up, our time is up. And are you going to look back on your life and say, man, I'm so glad I played it safe. I'm so glad I put up with all that bullshit. I'm so glad I put up with all those assholes. I'm so glad that I fucking slaved away to make somebody else's dreams come true. I'm so glad that I never took my risks in my life. No, baby. You're here to live your life. You're here not to exist in life. You're here to take those chances, those imperfect actions every single day, because guess what? You do that, you get stronger and you get more powerful and you get more confident and you take more courage and you sit there and say, you know what? It's going to suck, but on the other side of it, I'm going to be so much better. I'm going to be so much stronger. I'm going to be so much happier. I have seen people go through miserable divorces and miserable bankruptcies and miserable business failures and all those other things. And then 2-3 years down the line, they come back to me like, Chris, I'm happy. I'm married. I got a job. I got all these things because they decided to change the script that they had running for themselves. They decided to become a victor instead of a victim. They decided to surround themselves with the right people. They decided to ditch their excuses. They decided to have the right people in their life. That's what you guys need to do. I'm here for you. Yes, Oren says right here, imperfect action. Got Valerie Smith in the house. What's up, Valerie? Says amen. Thank you for being that. Oren says here, as far part of a chess movie, says make your move before you're ready. 100%, man. You guys got to go check out that episode with Oren. Actually, you know what? Let me just do this real quick. I think I can do this really super quick. So yes, again, we're going to be back here next week, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, as always. Being able to what happened? I'm trying to find that. Or where is it? Oh, wait a minute, Oren, were you on here? Were you on the other one? I'll put it in the show notes. We don't want to waste your time. So anyways, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you. I love you guys. Go rawandunscripted.com, RAW and unscripted.com. Go there, subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get podcasts sold. We're on every platform you could possibly imagine. Yes. Jump. No, that is actually, she says, is Jump a book or a documentary? Actually, it's a video that's 1 minute and 27 seconds, something like that. I put it up here so you can go click on it. You can click on it, and I would love for you guys to come back here and comment on this link and let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Go check it out. Those are your orders from headquarters. We're gonna be back here next week. Our guest next week, and we got from England. She's gonna be coming to us at 3:00 in the morning. Nuala Naughton. You're going to check her out. She's feisty. She's British. She smokes cigarettes and she's got a lot of funny stories to tell about life. She talks like a pirate, I guess. I don't know. You guys go out there and be unstoppable. You guys go out there and take risks and have chances and make a beautiful life for yourself. I'm here to help you. Kelsey Matheson is here to help you. You need to help you. Peace out.